In a significant move towards safeguarding the rights of domestic workers, the Senate convened a public hearing to endorse the bill for an act to provide for the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employers and for other related matters 2024, subsection 272. Sponsored by Senator Babangida Hussain representing Jigawa North, the bill aims to establish a government agency responsible for documenting domestic workers and their employers to ensure the protection of both parties. Representing Senate President Godswill Akpabio, Senator Bino Siaro emphasized the bill's objective to uphold the inalienable rights of domestic workers.
Evidence that every individual, including domestic workers and employees, is born equal and possesses the same inalienable rights. As a Senate committed to rectifying the wrongs in our society, we have come together today to discuss the bill to provide for the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employers and employees. This issue resonates deeply with me, having witnessed both the triumph of domestic workers breaking free from abuse and exploitation, as well as the tragedies of those submerged in neglect and despair. During my time as the governor of Akwa Ibom State, I embarked on a mission not only to uplift Nigeria as a whole, but more importantly, to uplift individual Nigerians. One of the measures I took was enacting laws to ensure that children engaged in domestic work were not denied their rights to education.
Other stakeholders, including Senator Dickett Plank, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Labor and Productivity, and Ismaila Abubakar, Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, also voiced their support for the bill. They detailed the plight of domestic workers in Nigeria and underscored the necessity for the proposed legislation.
I'm sure that most of us are aware of nasty things that have happened, even either to the domestic worker or the employer of the domestic service. And the bill is intended that it becomes a law where the Ministry for Labor and Productivity will have a lot of role in documenting, standing in for, accounting for domestic workers employed in Nigeria. Even if the country reaches a level where domestic service can be exported, let it be in such a way that there is documentation. And anybody who would want to engage the services of a domestic servant, the person needs to be known. This is to avoid molestation, this is to avoid exploitation to both sides, the employer and the employee.
This category of workers comprises a significant part of the global workforce in informal employment and is becoming the most vulnerable group of workers. They work for private households, often without clear terms of employment, unregistered and excluded from the scope of labor legislation. They often labor under harsh economic conditions, work long hours for low wages without benefits or job security,